Hey everybody, this is TCG Productions. Oh wow, this is actually the first video I've made since I rebranded the channel. Oh my goodness. Yeah, talk about it being a while since I've recorded an actual new video. I think the last one of those I did that was actually editing worthy was July. Oh my. Oh boy. Anyways, I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase here. I just uploaded a video entitled Tech Room Computer Changes, and in here we are doing, you guessed it, more Tech Room computer changes. So what you see here are a pair of systems. Now they both do not currently have their side covers on. One of the systems doesn't even have its side cover anywhere around here. In fact, this particular system's side cover is somewhere down in Jacksonville. And this system has just simply had its side cover removed and placed off to the side because it does contain personally identifying information that I do not want becoming a part of YouTube. And to me, that is perfectly reasonable. So, anyways, this system right here is the Tech Room LegacyThings computer. Now, this system, it works fine, but it has, well, more than a few Achilles heels for sure. I'll go ahead and I'll pull the heatsink off of this system. Well, actually I'm not, because that's actually pretty involved. But this system right here is based around a socket LGA 775 Pentium 4 hyper-threaded processor. Now, of course, that's going to be one of the later Pentium 4s, and I think this one's actually based around the Prescott architecture. Now, if you know anything about Pentium 4s of this era, you can probably guess what the first big problem of the system is. It runs hot, and it's very power hungry, and it's extremely inefficient. Like, see, right now, I got two bars, the load bar on my UPS is sitting at 2. Now, I'm not going to connect up any keyboard or mouse. I'm not even going to connect up the VGA actually, but actually I am going to connect up the VGA just so the monitor comes on and we get a more accurate representation of the load we're dealing with. Now the first major Achilles heel of this system is, well, it runs hot, it's extremely power hungry, and all the power it does. And with all the power it consumes, it makes extremely inefficient use of said power. So right now, load bar on my UPS is sitting at 2. If I go ahead and kick this system on, it goes up to 3. Monitor kicks on, and we don't have a lot of room before we get to before we get up into the 4th load bar on the UPS. Keyboard failure. Gee, I wonder why. It's not like there's totally not a keyboard plugged into the system. So anyways, cut the power here. But yeah, this is a very inefficient computer. Well, it's not really an inefficient computer more than it is an absolute power hog of a processor. That is yeah, that power supply is driving. The second problem with this system, the case is too big. Now, there are some applications for which a very big case is quite most certainly welcome. My main computer certainly fits into that category. This system does not fit into that particular category. The case is too big, and I'll tell you why. To facilitate some of the regular functions of this system, which does not involve kicking the tripod, I have cabling coming out of the front, and this is pretty similar to, I actually got this idea from Cube Computer Channel whenever he rebuilt the Cube Computer Plexi that had been sitting up in his attic for a long time, and he ran some cables out the front so that he could attach hard drives and whatnot to the system. Now that's a fine and dandy idea, so I did the same thing here so that way I didn't have to drag out a whole setup and occupy half the table whenever I wanted to like do something normal like wipe a hard drive without tying up a bunch of space other than the table, or tying up my hard drive dock, or wiping an IDE hard drive of any variety. But anyways, I digress. This system, yeah, the case here is just enormous. I've got one of the longest IDE cables I can find in my collection here, and it's probably 3 feet long, and it goes from way back. It goes from way back yonder, right here, right next to the 24 pin power connector, which why they did that, the world may never know, all the way out to the front here, and it barely reaches up to the top of the system. I also have the longest SATA cable in my collection, which is a similar length, and while it is afforded a little bit more length just by virtue of the cable not being so thick, it doesn't have a whole lot of room to spare either. And it's also a double whammy combo of the case being so big and the positioning of the IDE connectors, of the IDE and SATA connectors on the motherboard. And they're all the way over at the back of the case for some inexplicable reason. And so, I mean, yeah. And another thing, this is one of those really lovely legacy-free systems. Remember that awful fad back in the 2000s? Yeah, this is one of those legacy-free systems where all it has is it has 4 USB ports. It has an Ethernet port, which is very conveniently dead. It has your typical line out, line in, and microphone in connectors, and then it has your typical VGA connector, and that's it. So there's not a whole lot going for this system in terms of connectivity. And say whenever I'm running a tool such as SpinRite 6, SpinRite 6 does not play nice in any way with USB input peripherals. Period. Like it works fine before you start SpinRite. Then you start SpinRite, and you can have an ape bashing at the keyboard, and you will get nothing useful out of it. Say it says press F2 for function XYZ. You press F2, and instead of function XYZ, you get function ABC. Or you don't get any function. Or you get 3 functions at once. Or you get a complete, or it just does nothing. Or it does like 4 functions at once, and then just kicks you right back out to the place you came from. So yeah, SpinRite 6.0 doesn't play nice with USB input peripherals. And then the big fly in the ointment here. This system has serial ATA, and it does have serial ATA here, as evidenced by the SATA connector here coming out of the front of the system. However, it is rather burdened by the fact that its serial ATA implementation does not support NCQ or native command queuing, which means that all commands are processed as they are received, regardless of how efficient it is to reorganize commands to transfer to execute said commands in a much more linear, in a much more efficient fashion. Like say, if you're seeking from the beginning of your hard drive to the very end of your hard drive and into the middle of your hard drive, it's going to do exactly that. It's going to go beginning, end, middle. And with NCQ, it could go end, middle, beginning, or beginning, middle, end, because it'll reorganize those commands and it'll actually queue them up in a buffer and then send the result out to the actual system. Yeah, now that has the benefit of increased transfer speeds and much lower seek times and reduced latency. But since this system doesn't support that, it makes everything to do with hard drive I/O, well, disk I/O, much slower. Disk imaging the system, you might, like, you start a disk image, you might as well go and see No Time to Die, and then you'll come back, and then it'll probably be finishing it up. That is a 2-hour, and that movie has 2 hours and 45 minutes of runtime, so we're talking a really, really, really long time here. And then this is just another little thing that irks me about this system. The fan noise this thing makes is nothing short of amazing. And yes, the system does have a nice, fresh, cleaned out heatsink, so it is in no way being choked for air. But yet, when this thing is taking a disk image, the fan noise is completely unreal. It sounds like there is a 747 in my tech room at full throttle. So yeah, like I can hardly hear myself think over this system's fan noise. Oh, and the boot menu. Dell has got the most useless boot menu selection options I have ever seen. Say you have 2 USB thumb drives plugged in, alright? And you go to the boot menu, and you would expect to see a separate boot menu entry for each device. But no, it just says external USB device or something along the lines of that. And you hit enter on that. It is a complete crapshoot as to whether it's going to select the correct device or not. And it's probably not going to select the correct device. So yeah. Earlier today, I was given this system. Yeah, this is it's branded as Compaq, but it is certainly Hewlett-Packard OEM, because for one, the motherboard's OEM'd by Asus. That's a dead giveaway. 2, it's an upside down design. That's another dead giveaway. 3, it's got this hard drive cage thing down here in the corner. Another dead giveaway. I mean, 3 dead giveaways right off the bat that this is an HP OEM design, and all they did was just slap Compaq branding on it. But this system is a little bit, I wouldn't exactly call it more connectivity rich, but I will say it does have better connectivity because it has 2 USB ports, which is crappy and lackluster, to put it bluntly. Of course, it has your typical line out, line in microphone connectors. It also has 2 PS2 ports, PS2 keyboard and PS2 mouse. Now, there's a couple of interesting add-in cards that are present. You have a FireWire 400 and 800 card, which is this black card here up against the power supply. Are you able to see that? Kind of barely. Now, this thing provides an external FireWire 400 and 800 connector, and then it gives you an internal FireWire 400 connector. Now, it's not like a pin header that you can use a front case connector with, but it is still a connector that can be used inside the case, and this system not being an Apple system, such as this system not being a Mac, that's the manufacturer of the expansion card being way more generous than anybody ever has to be. So, and this system has a 250 gigabyte Seagate Barracuda 7200.12 hard drive and date code 11147. And I'm going to bet this system was manufactured sometime around anywhere between 2008 and 2011, because it has a Windows 7 OEM sticker on the front. Yet it also has a license key for Windows Vista Home Premium, and so, but it runs Windows 7. It has a license for Windows Vista Home Premium, which unless Hewlett Packard got into some kind of a deal with Microsoft where they could reuse or upgrade Windows Vista licenses to Windows 7, either for free or some kind of a reduced fee. Who knows? But the cards played out the way they did, and this system shipped with Windows 7. I'm assuming it shipped with Windows 7. It may have started out as Vista and become 7. I have no idea. It's a complete toss-up. But the system is in working order. It was given to me in non-working order, and the client said that this system had already been replaced and that they did not want it back. And I verified this in writing. All they wanted was the data off of the hard drive, and I successfully copied it, and arrangements are being made to get that data back to the customer. And of course, the hard drive, I took an image of the hard drive in case there happened to be a miscommunication up the line somewhere, and that they do actually want this system back. And that has actually happened before, and that's why I always take disk images of hard drives before things get majorly repurposed. It actually saved my butt one time whenever there was an unintentional miscommunication, and the client did actually in fact want the system back. So I just took the hard drive, put the disk image back on it, and served pro like it never even happened. So, and then we have this other card here. I'm assuming it's an AMD card, just going by the fact that the PCB's red. Now, that may be a bit of a hasty generalization there, but what I plan on doing with this system is, this is going to become the new Tech Room LegacyThings system, and I'm finally going to be retiring one of my two last Pentium 4 systems out of my fleet. Now, that will leave me with only one Pentium 4 system left in my fleet, my HP Pavilion A1000Y, which is happily serving duty as my APCUPSD network server. And that's connected to my UPS via serial using a APC Smart Serial cable that I majorly overpaid for. But anyways, I digress. But anyways, case in point is that particular Pentium 4 system. I've been wanting to get this thing gone for quite some time now, and now we're moving to an AMD Athlon 64X2, and that will be a much more than welcome upgrade. Oh, my lamp is wobbling. No, my lamp is wobbling. But anyways, I'm not taking on any more Pentium 4 systems unless they're basically free and in working condition. Or if they're not in working condition, I'll take it on. I'll take the useful parts out of it, and then the motherboard will become another decade or a year-end send-off special. So anyways, I've got some custom power supply hackery going on over here, and I'm not sure if you're able to tell or not, but I'm actually going to begin disassembling this system and taking my hardware out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start disassembling this system, and I think we'll start off by unscrewing our Wi-Fi antenna and getting the Wi-Fi card out of here. Now, I think what I'm going to do is for the new Tech Room Network Bridge system, Tech Room Network Bridge, that hasn't been a thing in almost a couple of years. But I think what I'm going to do for the new Tech Room LegacyThings system is I'm going to drop one of my Asus PCE-AC68 cards in it, because now that I'm actually going to be having the system run on hardware that that actually is from this decade or very close to, I think it deserves a better Wi-Fi card. So this is the old one. This is going to be going in a box. Now, the card reader here is one of these lovely 90,001 combo floppy drive things, and as such it has a USB cable that exists, and it pokes into the side of the case, and it's annoying and it gets in the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the hard drive out of here so it doesn't become the unfortunate victim of a cable or something pulling a cheap shot against it. Yeah, this is where things get cramped quick. Yes, another lovely Molex to SATA adapter. It's one of the molded ones too, so if it catches fire and burns up, my hard drive, oh well. New adapters are cheap, and that hard drive's like $40. And disk images too, so I mean, oh well. I'm doing my IDE cable, but to actually properly get it out of the system, have to unplug my 24-pin motherboard power connector, or a 20-pin on a 24-pin thing. And right down here, there's a CPU power connector, and that alone is a production. That's almost a production to get out. Okay, that frees up quite a bit of the wiring out of this system. And do that nasty 4-pin bird connector. And you still can't see the power supply hack jobbery yet. 30. That was almost a really bad misspeak. 34-pin floppy connector. Take that out. There's a pair of SATA cables, and first SATA cable to the front, first cable to the front out of the system, and it's longer than the case is wide. Okay. Now this IDE cable, the same thing. It's longer than the case is wide, but due to the way the connectors are physically laid out, is placed at a severe disadvantage. Go ahead and pull the front off here. And then go ahead and pull the USB cable for the combo floppy card reader back through. They have this set up. It's kind of it's like a warded thing they got going on up here, so you can't just open this up and slide it clean out of the case. Now to open it up to let the front screw by, but if you keep it held down, there's a plastic piece that blocks from the back screw from going through. You got to let it up to let that back screw through. Then you got to push it down again so that way the back screw clears and you can remove it from the case. Adaptec internal 7-in-1 drive 3, made by YE Data, from the 30th week of 2004. Now we'll be transplanting that over, and Now is when the power supply hackery becomes obvious. Yes, that is exactly what you think that is. But anyways, yes, that is exactly what you think that is. I went and I spliced, well, this power supply had one of those accessory AT connector, one of those AT power connectors on it. Oh look, my camera battery says it's just about dead. But this thing has one of those lovely little AT accessory connectors on it, so I cut that off and I spliced the 5 volt and 3.3 volt rails and stuck a SATA connector chain on here. And then for the 12 volt rail, I went and got one of these lovely Molex adapters that just plugs on, cut all the other wires off, and spliced a 12 volt rail in. And then the Molex adapter is just straight through. In fact, this power supply, so yeah, this power supply didn't even have, the power supply was built before a serial ATA became a thing. But yeah, that's why I want to transfer this power supply over, so that way I don't have to so that way I don't have to hack up a second power supply to do what I want. Looks like it's fairly good to go. So I'm gonna pull both systems apart, and I'm actually gonna go clean the other system because it's rather dusty. It's gonna be one of those off-camera deals because, well, the camera's gonna be charging. I need to drop the dough on a new battery on this thing someday. It's most conveniently completely off camera. I'll just keep working until the battery gives out and the camera eventually decides to shut itself down. So. Oh, and the problem with the computer was that the memory modules had loose contacts. So basically just reseated the memory modules and things started working once again. I'd say that's fairly strict at this point. I'll put the blue hard drive carrier caddy back in. I find it odd how this system only had one of those to go with it, not two. I'll actually go ahead and pull it. You know what, I actually should reset the CMOS and everything, pull the clock battery, remove my passwords from it, so that way basically this system's getting mothballed. So yeah, at this point I'm just trying to fill airtime. Okay, everybody, we are back, and it is now, we're at least 3 hours past, we're at least 3 hours into the future past the end of the previous segment of video, and quite a bit has transpired since we were last here. One, I have had entirely too much UXW Bill playing in the background. There's a noise here in the tech room, so that way I'm not just listening to the droning of the cooling fan in my Eaton PowerWare 9130, which is currently operating in double conversion mode. I have mostly completely stripped out the old Tech Room LegacyThings system. It has basically been completely prepared for mothballing. I've reset the CMOS, cleared the passwords, reset the BIOS, cleared the passwords, and the last thing I did before going and getting the camcorder was I actually went and pulled the CMOS battery out of it, and cutting the last of the power to that system's motherboard. So that way it can't run the battery dead and the battery can't go and leak out all over the motherboard and wreak all kinds of havoc on it. One thing I just realized I forgot to do is secure the hard drive cage back in. And nothing a couple of screws can't fix. At least it's not those T15s that HP really. At least it's not those T15s that HP somehow started absolutely loving. Probably about the turn of the previous decade. This is 2021 for reference, in case this video just so happens to be, in case YouTube still happens to be a thing in 2031. So, but I've gotten most of the hardware from the old system carried over just fine to this system. Oh, I just turned it on. It's actually, I'm going to put a quick stop to that. Anyways, most of the hardware from the old system did carry over to this system, however, with some notable exceptions, and we're actually going to go ahead and get into those particular exceptions now. So the combo floppy drive and card reader did carry over, and one exception, the card reader portion is completely non-functional because, well, I really don't have anything to plug that USB cable into because, well, there's only two USB ports on the back of the system, and they are both, and they've got the keyboard and mouse on them right now as of this moment. And frankly, I'm not going to even bother with the card reader because the card reader that shipped with the system from the factory is in place, present, and actually plugged in. So I'm not bothered. So I mean, I literally have no reason to bother with the card reader. It would be unnecessarily hogging a port. It would be getting a completely unnecessary IRQ address. I mean, it's just a complete and total waste of resources to have it plugged in. So, anyways, the Asus PCE-AC68 wireless card, apparently this motherboard is so old, that card and this motherboard just do not play ball with one another whatsoever. Okay, that card does not get along with this motherboard. I'm willing to bet it's due to a PCI Express generational incompatibility. Probably a card that wants or needs something that this motherboard's particular PCI Express implementation just simply can't provide. So as such, I went and put the same wireless card in here that come out of the old system, and instead of hodgepodging an antenna setup together for it, I'm just putting these two on the back, and we're just going to roll with it. Now, the USB 3 card that got freed up whenever I upgraded the Tech Room main office computer, I went ahead and dropped that into this system, so that way, one, I could have a high-speed USB connection, which will allow me to rather easily transfer data on and off of this system using, say, my 2 terabyte Western Digital external hard drive there, without having to eat up my hard drive dock whenever I'm disk imaging something, which means I'll be able to use this system as a disk imaging station, which is helpful. And so that way I can dump massive quantities of files either onto this system or off of this system. And I had a PCI slot blank to fill. I really didn't have any slot blanks to fill it with, and I had a card that I wanted to get out of my PCI, my expansion cards box. So I went ahead and just took this Sound Blaster Audigy 2 with a dead DAC and dropped it in there. Fills a slot blank, gets it out of my box of hardware, so it's a win-win scenario. Now the power supply, of course, that carried on over just fine. Hard drive carried over. The Molex SATA adapter carried over, and a great deal of the cabling also carried over. The 34-pin floppy connector carried over just fine. So did the 40-pin IDE cable. In fact, that cable is mostly out of the system now, because it plugs in right there, to basically immediately bundles up and goes directly out of the system. And if I really stretched it, I could plug 2 IDE drives in at the same time. However, it's a bit tight for that. So unless something completely unusual comes up and I need to, like say, I need to wipe the data off of 2 IDE drives at the same time, I don't think I'll be utilizing both IDE channels. So the card reader, well, the combo floppy drive thing, it just screws in right there. There's not a 3.5-inch knockout, so I just took the whole 5.25-inch blanking plate and knocked it out. And if you're not able to tell, this case is the condition of this case is absolutely nasty. I'll be tearing it down and cleaning it hopefully tomorrow. And tomorrow is actually about 10 minutes ahead of the clock right now. So yep. And gotta love my super professional hack job splice crimp there. See, this power supply used to be under the desk right back in there powering the old Tech Room firewall system, that Advantech Uno-3072LA. That system's been mothballed that system's actually been completely mothballed for quite some time now. It's actually boxed up, sealed, and in a different storage building. So we won't be seeing or hearing from that system again for quite a long time. So, and I was initially going to leave the card reader out, but after I got everything set up, I realized not only was I not running anything through here, but I had enough resources to plug that in, so I reinstalled it and plugged it in. So there it is. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. For some reason, I had some project or something where I needed the CPU power connector off of something, and since the only thing I was using was some direct connections, direct connection off of one of the Molex chains. I think that's actually why there was a Molex chain gone, because I snipped it off to wire in my firewall system, the Advantech system. And so I just snipped it off of here, and whenever I converted this thing back to a regular power supply, I went and splice crimped it back on, and then sometime later on I spliced in this SATA thing here so I can connect up SATA hard drives. And I've noticed a little bit of trouble with it. I've noticed a bit of trouble with this adapter here. So if this continues giving me trouble, I'll hog something off of one of those 4 power supply. Well, one of those 2 supplies actually. There's 4 power supplies, but only 2 of them have SATA connectors. So I'll probably hog something off the top of that. Off that top supply and just splice it on here. Get rid of that adapter entirely. It was flaking out on me while I was testing the system. Hard drive shut down, and hard drive actually shut down multiple times because the thing was being flaky. But Debian did not crash. In fact, Debian actually stayed up and running, and when the hard drive came back up, it actually recovered from it. So that is pretty neat. But I've been running the system a little bit, and it's a whole lot better than what it's replacing, which is good. I also went and stripped the RAM out of the old system because well, I mean, why just leave it in a system that's going to be sitting in a storage building for quite possibly 10 or 15 years? So I took it out, and if I need it for something, I'll toss it out. Speaking of the memory modules, this system actually uses a pair of 2 GB low-profile memory modules. I don't know why those are low-profile. Maybe Hewlett-Packard shipped it from the factory like that, or maybe it was full-size memory modules, and at some point or another, this system got an upgrade. And low-profile memory modules just so happened to be on the menu that day. So now I'm gonna go ahead and boot this thing up. Demonstrate it on the wireless network. Do a little bit of YouTube playback. I can tell it's getting late here. The language and phrasing is just going straight down the tube. And I'll even wipe a hard drive, which is a Seagate 250 gig drive that I actually pulled from this thing earlier. Now the reason why this thing needs wiped is because according to my internal hard drive classification system, this drive contains personally identifying information and quite possibly information about minors. So for data security, this drive is going to be wiped pretty expediently. Okay, so here we are. I have the hard drive to be wiped, hooked up. And hopefully the adapter will function properly, and hopefully it won't short out or create a rather sudden smoke show in the tech room, or suddenly require the use of a fire extinguisher to cool things down. So, go ahead and switch the power supply on. Probably just saw the lights blink. Maybe, maybe not. It depends on if the frame rate of the camera was... depends on if the camera caught it or not. So go ahead. Power on. I'm not sure if our main hard drive is doing anything useful. No, it doesn't look like. Yeah, we're having a bit of trouble here. This adapter's. I think this adapter's gone flaky on me. Just bend it over to the other side, cram it in there somewhere, and try this again. There we go. Now I know that both hard drives are definitely running now. Booting into Debian testing. Now this system has a green power LED and kind of a yellow amberish hard drive activity indicator LED. So And the system's actually pretty darn snappy compared to whenever it was running on that Pentium 4, which, as I've mentioned earlier in the video, that Pentium 4, it needed to go. Okay, we're sitting here at a login prompt, so now I've mentioned this before, but the VGA cable that, I don't know if it's a VGA cable or if it's, I don't know if it's a VGA cable or if it's my monitor or what, but on the VGA side you can't read the EDID. Now there's a few oddities going on. For one, X screensaver immediately locks the screen when I log in. I don't know why it does that, but it does. I'm willing to guess it has something to do with the system clock jumping around. So, and you really can't rush the graphics on this, because I tried to do that once, and the GPU just flat out locked up on me. So yeah, can't do that. It's got an NVIDIA chipset, so hopefully it's not one of the bump gate ones. But this monitor has a display panel whose native resolution is 1280 by 1024, so 5:4 aspect ratio, and go ahead and crank it up. Yes. Yeah, 1280 by 1024 aspect ratio, resolution, 5:4 aspect ratio, kind of uncommon. This is one of four. This is one of about 4 monitors I have that has a 5:4 aspect ratio. Now the other oddball aspect ratio I have is 16 by 10, which is from my 23-inch Apple Studio Cinema display. I can tell it's been a long time since I've used this particular installation of Firefox. So there goes my bookmarks finally refreshing. More extensions and stuff installing, so yeah, I might have to suddenly blur the screen to hide email addresses or something. So, now, I don't know if I think I'm signed into YouTube. Now, I don't actually have the audio hooked up on this system. No, I'm not installing that. Thank you very much. I need to hide some extensions. Oh my goodness gracious. You can barely see the URL bar. Okay, I'm definitely signed into YouTube. We're not exactly caught up yet, but we're managing it. We're managing things a whole lot better than that Pentium 4. Now, if this system does have a bump gate chipset, and the motherboard gives out, I've got another system in line, and that would be the old main office computer. However, it would look a little bit more jacked up than this system, primarily because of the folding stuff on the front panel. And I would have to delete all of that. So let me see if I have I'm not entirely sure if I have an audio cable floating around here, but Ah, yes, I actually had a box of 3.5mm audio cables just behind another box, and I even have a cable right behind me. However, it's blocked in by a couple of other boxes. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the audio in, and plug that in. Plug that in. Back of the system here and check our one exit, and that's input select. Two. I'm not entirely sure how far up the speakers in the monitor are cranked, so I'm going to turn that down more than a little bit. Let's go watch a YouTube video. Okay, yeah, no ad blocking going on here. We are struggling quite a bit. Actually seems like the speakers in the monitor are turned down quite a bit. Input select. Exit. Okay, come on, you stupid monitor. The menus on this thing are jack. Yeah, it doesn't exactly seem like our audio is working quite as intended. Let's open up Pulse Audio Volume Control and see where our audio is going. There we go.
So, quite recently, I was given this HP Pavilion 500 personal computer from a friend of mine, and I don't know why the system got taken out of use, but I'm
Jump ahead so there's a bit of movement going on so we can see exactly how good things are.
like the box is handy. And if you're going to be doing upgrades and you're going to be messing around with power supply configuration, definitely get the box.
Looks like we're managing pretty good.
Handy.
We're trying for 720p 60.
Anyway, so this system over here still has
Definitely not 60 FPS though, but we are managing.
Included. Unfortunately, Hewlett Packard and their infinite wisdom, you can definitely tell I'm not particularly a fan of Hewlett Packard's system design.
Well, it looks like we are managing along pretty well.
HP, not an HP only.
However, we are putting quite a bit of load on the CPU. I can definitely tell because the fan's revving up and down. The system had a GPU. The system had a dedicated GPU in it, and it looked like they were using it. Though I don't know if it was actually working or not because I couldn't get any output from it. Maybe the BIOS wasn't initializing it correctly. Now let's go for some 480p. Go to the Videos tab and kick off the search. for Dish. Dish Installation Guide, 1996-1997.
Receiving system. This video has been made to give you an overview of the installation and operation of your new system. We'll cover the basics of connecting your receiver, finding the satellite and best location for the dish antenna, assembling the dish antenna and installing the mast, grounding and routing cable, connecting and mating the dish, activating programming, wiring your system, and fundamental operations. We'll also provide a section on how to install a second dish system, EchoStar 3 and 4 satellites. That will be covered later on. Buy carefully. We'll enter the house and where the grounding block and the receiver will be. It will also help simplify the installation of the receiver.
It looks like we're managing along just fine. It looks like all our graphics are on the CPU, and that doesn't surprise me at all. And so, anyways, it looks like we're managing things along just fine. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get that system seated. I'm going to go ahead and get this system put back in its proper spot, and then we'll go from there and proceed to wipe a hard drive. Shut this down just so you can see that happen. It shuts down pretty quickly. System does need a complete teardown and cleaning, and probably need to redo the thermal paste on the CPU. However, it looks like I'm almost out of. It seems I'm almost out of Arctic Silver 5. Last time I looked, yeah, I'm just about out of Arctic Silver 5. However, I do have a tube of Cooler Master branded thermal paste that I got with the box of random computer stuff. I don't know if said thermal paste is actually any good or not. Yeah, it's probably still good. So I think I'll refresh the thermal paste whenever I clean this system, and it looks like we've left midnight 12 minutes in the past. Or thereabouts. Yeah, this is what Saturday nights have. Yeah, this is what a few nights have come down to in the tech room in times past. Leaving midnight in the rear view in the tech room, the lights on, and the video camera rolling. So, anyways, I'm gonna disconnect this hard drive so I don't drop it and amputate something. And that would take it from a class 4 drive to a class 6 drive, which class 4, I'll make another video talking about my internal hard drive and, well, internal storage device classification system at some point in the near future, probably tomorrow. Probably dump the camera card tonight and kick off some backups and go to bed. Anyways, we'll be back. Anyways, I'm going to get this system planted down into its spot and make a few more changes, and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. The system is now nestled down in its little cubby hole here. Everything's plugged in, and I even went as far as to bring out the USB 3 connection with the USB 3 extension, so that way I don't have to go reaching around the back of the system and having to do impromptu contortionism to plug something in. So this thing right here, that is a USB 2.0 external optical drive, and I've already got a copy of Ultimate Boot CD loaded in there, ready for me to boot off of it. Switched out the keyboard for a PS2 one, which freed up a USB port. So I've got a USB mouse and a USB optical drive and a PS2 keyboard. Power supply is on. Okay, I heard both hard drives spin up, which is a good sign. Monitor comes up. I'm going to go ahead and let it boot up into Linux first before proceeding with wiping the drive, just that way make sure everything's okay. Okay, so 2 hard drives. Go ahead and boot. Apparently Grub didn't exactly take to the fact that there was a keyboard present, but okay. Now the kernel recognizes. Okay, system looks like it's... The system's definitely become aware of the optical drive, and the system's definitely aware of the disk I have loaded in the optical drive. Scoot that back over. Now the Wi-Fi antenna I had up here, that was hot glued up there. Well, I had trouble with it just falling down randomly, and what I basically ended up doing is hot gluing the thing to the wall, and it was actually hot glued almost too good. It was actually hot glued into the wall almost too well. What I had to do is I basically had to pry it off the wall with a flat-headed screwdriver. Yes, this keyboard is so much nicer than that HP piece of junk I just took out. Yeah, both this keyboard and that one right there are Dell keyboards, and they certainly feel like Dell keyboards. Also went and took the opportunity to plug the audio connection in to the back of the system. So I'll need to be pretty quick to ratchet the volume down. And if we go MD, now we're coming from the computer. Again, the screensaver likes to randomly lock the screen about as soon as it initializes. I don't know why it's doing that, but oh well. Let's head into my music folder here, and let's try to find something that won't get me clocked upside the head by the copyright police. And how did a mind test mod slip its way into this folder? Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything here that I can play without getting whacked upside the head by the copyright police. So you know what? I'm going to open up Firefox, and I'll just play something out of my 1300 video playlist. Now I'm not going to dare venture off into YouTube Music. So yeah, I'm not going to dare venture off into YouTube Music at this moment. Figure that out later. You know what, I'm going to go to YouTube Music so I don't have to jack around with the rest of the YouTube interface. Of course, we'll probably hear the CPU fan begin complaining quite loudly pretty quickly. I'm guessing our drive just spun down. Not our hard drive, but our optical drive, our external optical drive. A to Z. H. There we go. 1,982 songs. I need to go back through and clean up that playlist again. Now I've got pulse effects on here. Thought I had pulse effects. I guess not. I could install pulse effects on here and copy over my EQ profiles, but I'm not going to do that right now. One of the two things I want to play are not available on YouTube Music. Okay. In which case, we'll just back out of that and go to regular YouTube. And the lengths, measures, and extents I go to get a quality demonstration. I'm not turning off my dark reader extension. Thank you very much. Yeah. Actually, it looks like quite the opposite is happening. Regular YouTube is bogging this thing down a little bit more than YouTube Music. I don't think that'll get me canned by the copyright police, so max out the volume here on the computer. Let's go ahead and wait for our video to start playing. Script and the extension, blah. No, I'm not. Wait, here we go. Our video player just initialized. We got more things here to click on than gnats in a East Texas summer evening. Yeah, YouTube doesn't have this in their copyright system. I'll leave a link to this in the video description if anybody's curious. Yeah, let's try switching videos within a playlist. Pretty interesting. Pretty weird how that was jumping around like that. Go ahead and turn that off. But anyways, see, everything's working here, so go ahead and reboot the system, and at which point we'll go ahead and call up the boot menu. AMD Athlon 64X2 dual-core processor, 4800 plus. Do what? Okay, we're back after a short while later. A couple of things I tried. I just tried switching it to strictly the USB keyboard. Unplugged the PS2 keyboard, plug in the USB keyboard. That didn't change anything, so I went ahead and switched out the disc I was using from what was it, Hiram's to Ultimate. Yeah, I switched from Hiram's Boot CD 15.2 to Ultimate Boot CD, and the copy of I'm guessing the copy of D-Band on HP CD 15.2 is bugged. So, but it booted up just fine here. it booted up just fine on Ultimate Boot CD. I am set to wipe the 250 gig Seagate. Let's go ahead and change the method to the full DoD 5220.22-M. Verify last pass. One round. Start. Okay, and if somehow I got the two drives switched up and I'm actually wiping the Western Digital, well, that's why we have disk images. Okay, about 160 megabytes a second, which is quite good. It's about in line with SATA 2 speeds. Definitely a whole lot better than the SATA 1 speeds that the SATA 1 non-NCQ speeds that I was getting with the other system, and it doesn't sound like a freight train right outside your window. In fact, it's actually kept pretty quiet. Right now it says a little under 4.5 hours. I imagine it's going to be closer to 6 or 7 hours whenever you factor in things slowing down as the heads get to the inside of the platters and the linear velocity decreases, while angular velocity remains the same. So I'm not going to go into detail explaining all about that right now, because as it stands it is 18 minutes. It has been 18 minutes since I stopped the camera last, because when I stopped the camera last time it was 36, and now we just crossed 55, so 19 minutes. Yeah, we just crossed the 55 minute mark. So yeah, this system will quietly sit down here all night wiping that hard drive. And yeah, I can hear the CPU. I can hear a little bit of fan noise, but it's not blazing like the Dell Dimension E310. And let's see how it looks. We've got that green power light down there, so I can tell pretty quickly and easily if that system is running or not. So, and then one last thing I'll do is I'll take the old Tech Room LegacyThings system, and we'll have one last look at it after everything's been stripped out of it. Well, everything useful was stripped out of it that was either carried over to the new system. That's a really obnoxiously loud noise. I'm getting the ejection lever for the side of the case has apparently decided to take on a new affinity for sticking. And when it does that, you either have to manually release it yourself and it makes that noise, or wait and it will release itself when you probably quite least expect it or want it. So here is a shell of the system. Here's a shell of the system now, and it is definitely the processor heatsink that makes up the majority of the weight left behind in this case. Because this is totally flimsy. In fact, the thing that was keeping this from becoming absolutely flexible, like a piece of aluminum and an EF5, is a power supply that gave it rigidity. And only thing left in here is motherboard, CPU, heatsink, and system fan. The combo floppy drive card reader's been stripped out, carried over to the new system. Power supply carried over. RAM's just been stripped out entirely. IDE cabling's been carried over. The IDE cabling's been carried over. The wireless card's been carried over. CMOS battery's been stripped. Hard drive got carried over. I think I just heard the hard drive drop out. Yeah, I'm gonna splice a adapter. Yeah, that little Molex SATA adapter is about to get gone, and I'm about to just go ahead and splice a SATA chain on. Splice a SATA chain off of the power supply. Put it in there. That hard drive's still running. We've recently gotten a new freezer, if you can't tell. That shelf and 97% of its contents got moved to a storage building. And so here's the front of the system now. You can see where I notched it. You can see right here where I notched out the plate, the front panel thing here, so to accommodate the ejection tab on the combo floppy. Let's get a better look at that. Actually dremeled this out with some coarse sandpaper, and then I went back and followed it up with some real high grit sandpaper to take the roughness off. And you look at it from a distance. It just about looks factory. But anyways, this system's basically ready to go into indefinite storage. So, anyways, I don't think there were any bloated caps on this board. Anyways, I think that just about covers it for this mega video, which this will probably end up getting split into at least two parts, because I know I have more than an hour's worth of video footage going on here. But anyways, this is TCG Productions. Peace out, guys. Peace out, and we'll see you in the next one. Just a bit of a footnote, something I forgot to cover, and just realized it as I was getting things cleaned up in here, getting ready to shut things down for the night, or shall we say the morning. We've left the midnight hour 7 minutes in the rear view now. So for those of you who aren't exactly able to decode that, it's 1:07 in the morning now. On Saturday, September 27th. Saturday, November 27th, 2021. And right now the system's wiping, and of course I've also got other lights on in here, and it's mainly been sitting down there. 3 LEDs illuminated on the load bar. I'll go ahead and turn the monitor on. It kicks up to 4, but it kicks back down to 3 and kind of just floats between the two. Now, if we look at our load averages here, our 5-minute average is basically dead on 2, which means that we are fully utilizing our CPU. And which means that our CPU is staying busy 100% of the time, and there's nothing else waiting. And there's nothing else waiting on it. Now well, the cameras decided that its battery is no more for the night, and I've just about decided that myself too. But anyways, just figured I'd point out that this system is certainly more power efficient under load than the Pentium 4 system. Now, I imagine that even an 80 plus power supply, like your like your 80 plus basic power supply, even one of those would probably have a noticeable impact on power efficiency, and that's probably something I'll do when or if the power supply currently in use with this system does die. Now, I'm probably going to get abruptly cut off by the camera shutting things down on me, but this system is certainly more power efficient. So yeah, I'll go ahead and shut the monitor off, and that'll certainly have us firmly in the 3 out of 5 LED camp on the UPS's load bar. Kind of floats around 3 to 4, depending on whether I'm
a jumper right next door that actually
watching YouTube or not.
The speaker on.
And yeah, it's definitely more power efficient under heavy load. Now the Pentium 4 system, the Dell Dimension E310, however, would have that load bar well into the 4, probably bumping, beating, and bashing around the 5 mark for a bit. Anyways, I better go ahead and wrap this up before the camera wraps it up on its schedule. So, anyways, this is TCG Productions, and I will see y'all in the next video. Laters. Okay, everybody, this is actually yet another footnote to the video. We are a great many hours later since the previous video clip was taken. It is 3:46 p.m. on Saturday, November 26th. No, Saturday, November 27th. Here we are once again. The hard drive wipe finished successfully, just fine with no errors. And but this system really just does not have any graphical horsepower to be had using its onboard GPU. So the GPU that it has, well, the GPU that it came with, this unbranded, no-name thing, I don't even know what this is. Well, I mean, I know it's a GPU, but I mean, I don't even know whose video chipset it has on it. I mean, regardless of whose video chipset it's got, it's totally dead. It is completely and utterly, totally dead, because I put this thing in there, and the system does not pick up on it at all whatsoever. I mean, I switched to BIOS to the. I went into the BIOS and switched the primary video to that card, well, to the slot it was plugged into, and nothing, bupkis. So, and it doesn't even show up in LSPCI. So I mean, it is well and truly, for all intents and purposes, dead to the world. It's a power hog, basically. But I fooled around with that for a bit and got nowhere. I then went to the cabin and I pulled the CPU from the old main office computer. This system and that system both have AM2 sockets, and this motherboard does not support this motherboard does not support the AMD Phenom 2 that the main office computer has, or well, had. And and the main office computer, all it's got is SATA. There's no 34-pin floppy or 40-pin IDE. So, yeah, that idea is dead in the water. So, we're kind of stuck with what we've got here. And I did a little bit of looking on eBay, and something even as measly as as an ATI Radeon HD 5840 or something like that can be had for quite cheap. I found one on eBay for like 30 something bucks, free shipping. So whenever I actually have the cash to do so, which will be pretty soon, I'll be placing an order for that. Now I might actually go and drag the spare main computer up out of its cubbyhole and try some GPU swapping to well and truly confirm that that other GPU is dead, which I believe it is, before ordering that other GPU. Just that way I'm not throwing good money after bad, you know what I mean? But I also made a change to the testing setup here. I got tired of fooling around with that monitor that doesn't give its EDID information out over the VGA port, so I went ahead and dragged this thing down. That is a Gateway EV700 from October 2000. So, and this monitor works perfectly well. For some reason, it likes to default to a resolution of 1280 by 1024, which that's not the correct aspect ratio for this tube. This tube is an aspect ratio of 4:3. That's a 5:4 resolution, so it just doesn't look good. It's horizontally stretched. So what I did instead is I went and used CVT to generate a mode line for 1440 by 1080 at 62.5 Hertz refresh rate, and then of course I added that to XRandR as a new video mode. Then I went and assigned that video mode to the system's VGA connector, and then I actually went and set that video mode as active video mode. And something I've noticed is that this monitor has gotten just a little bit more cantankerous, a little bit more temperamental over the time it sat. Because used to be every once in a few blue moons, this thing would get just confused enough, and its microprocessor would get stuck in an infinite reset loop, indicated by the light behind that power button just flickering a little bit erratically. And I have to unplug it and plug it back in to clear it. But if I try to adjust the video resolution, this thing, it's a 50-50, well, more like a 25-75 shot of whether this thing gets stuck in a microprocessor reset loop or not. Now, I don't know if that's just due to the way the power is in here, high EMI RFI interference coupled with it being winter, or maybe the AC line itself is just dirty and noisy. But oh well. Anyways, I put this machine through its paces a little bit. I opened up Discord in the web browser. I'm not installing the Discord client on this system. And if it comes down to that, something has gone horribly, seriously wrong. Because I mean, my main computer's up and running just fine. And if that goes down, then I'll fall back probably to the spare main computer. And if that goes down, I'll be falling back on the main office computer or one of my laptops. And even then, I've got multiple laptops to go through. And then, like this would be at the bottom of the rung for semi-modern systems. I've got systems in the cabin I can cobble together. And if it comes down to this system, and if that goes down, then that means I'll be cobbling this Pentium 4 thing back together, which I don't think I ever will. Yeah. Anyways, talk about a heck of a sidebar there, but and another thing I did was I went and swapped out the floppy drive here. I took that combo. I I got rid of that combo unit, put it in the box, and stuck it away on one of my shelves. And I go whacking the corner of the monitor, which is probably not the greatest thing ever. And here I am trying to crush SATA cables under the weight of the computer case. But I went ahead and swapped out the floppy drive on this system. This is one that came out of my Dell Dimension 2400, and that system's been parted out and gone at least a good 5+ years. I don't know if I don't even know if I still have the motherboard kicking around somewhere. That probably got burned up. I think that motherboard probably got burned up, smashed, and tossed years ago. I would be very surprised if it was still kicking around some here to this very day. But the reason I swapped out the floppy drive is because that USB cable was just getting in the way. Because I was switching CPUs back and forth in here, and yes, I'm very well aware that the CPU heatsink is just about all but clogged with dust. Actually, pretty thick dust actually. You need to take the air compressor to that. And no, I haven't repasted the microprocessor yet. I'll be doing that whenever I clean the system, and there'll actually be a whole dedicated video to that. But it was getting in the way over here, so I went ahead and swapped that out. And to swap that out, you just about need the best thing to do when swapping out the floppy drive is just go ahead and clear away all the cabling. Unplug your motherboard and your CPU power connectors, get those and fold those up there out of the way. Unplug the card reader and get its USB cable out of there. Unplug the front panel probably. Go ahead and probably take your 34-pin floppy connector and swing it out of the way. It's just in a bad spot to do that, especially whenever you have to go and get down there to that 4-pin connector at the back. That's really irritating when it's all the way on the opposite side of a bunch of cabling that's in the way. Anyways, now this is well and truly the end of this video, so I will see y'all in the next video.